Hello, Thriving Therapist. How are you guys? Welcome back to the Thriving Therapist Thursday Facebook Live every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. I wanted to ask you guys a couple questions today. Many of you are on our page because you're trying to build a thriving practice, but many of you are also on our page because you already have a full caseload and you're looking to do something a little bit different. So I want to tell you my story about how I did this, and maybe it'll inspire you to do the same if you're in this situation. When I first started building my private practice, I had clients 3 days a week, and it was a nice sweet spot for me because I had very young children at the time, and I didn't want to work full time, but that was like a full-time caseload. So I balanced that very nicely, and then as my children got older and we moved to a new city, my husband actually opened a business and was not going to be able to take an income with the new business for quite some time. So I ramped up my practice and I went 5 days a week, 7 clients a day, and I did 35 clients a week for a long time. And it got to be a lot. I would love to hear how many people you guys have on your caseload on average, but 35 a week was really exhausting for me after doing it for years and years. And to be honest, I also missed doing other things. I was a music therapist before I was a psychotherapist, and so I did a lot of like creative work. I did drum circles. I played musical instruments with patients at the hospital bedside. I did worked with art therapists. I did mandala work for years. I got into guided imagery and movement therapy, dance therapy. I worked with all different kinds of integrative medicine folks in my hospital career. And I really missed some of the creative outlets that were really fulfilling for my soul. And so I kind of tuned into what was missing for me, and I also recognized that my caseload was too large, and I started to think, okay, if I don't want to drop my income, but I want to scale, and I want to maybe try to see more people for a shorter, I don't want to do as many one-on-ones. I want to see more clients, and I want to be able to get as much income for that investment or more income for that investment than I would for my one-on-one time that I was giving up, then I wanted to kind of think carefully about what I was going to do. My first step was offering groups. So I started with a small group of women who kind of all had a similar theme in their one-on-one work. And I opened it up to my caseload and I offered a group therapy, group kind of support group, I guess you could say, sessions that were going to happen once a week in my office waiting room in the evenings when no one else was in my office suite. And I loved running these groups. We did a check-in with them every week to see how things were going. We did meditations, we did shamanic journey practices, we did mandalas, we did vision boarding, we did journaling. We had all kinds of really creative, fun things that were part of this offering. And I originally structured it to only be like 6 or 8 weeks long. And it went on for years. The women that were in it never wanted to stop, and I got as much satisfaction out of it as they did too. And I really enjoyed offering that, and so that was a great way to service like 10 people in a very creative, fun outlet for me that was not one-on-one therapy, where there was a different dynamic because there was group support, and to be able to have more income for that work was also a benefit to me because I was then able to reduce some of my one-on-one caseload, and I didn't have to do 7 people a day, 5 days a week. Can you guys relate to this? Tell me if you guys have run groups. I'd love to hear about your experience with that. I know some people structure it like group therapy and they use insurance for that, but mine was more like a wellness group, and it was not structured to be used with insurance. So it was just private pay. So I did groups for a long time, and then the natural next step was to bridge into offering kind of like a half-day workshop or a half-day retreat for this type of group of women. Of course, I opened it up to a larger number of clients, but I definitely kind of structured my first offering based on the women who were in the group that I was doing group therapy with or group wellness support. And I thought maybe I should do like a half-day workshop, and maybe I'll have like a really nice yoga instructor come. I don't do yoga, but I love doing yoga. I don't teach it. But I had a yoga instructor come in the morning, and they offered yoga to the group. And then I would do like a little, like sort of theme-based lesson. So I would, talk about self-care, or talk about coping strategies, or talk about boundary management, or ways that we can thrive in our life, or mindfulness practices, for example. And then we would do a nice, healthy catered lunch, and then we would do some sort of a fun activity in the afternoon. And I would bring in the mandala again, or I would sometimes bring all my drums, and we would do a big drum circle. But it was really fun. We did mask making one time. We did a art collage experiment kind of experience that we did. Not experiment, it's an experience. And that was super fun too. And so from that little like half-day retreat, it grew into larger retreat offerings. And then I started to try to do, weekend retreats. And I would rent an Airbnb or rent a property in northern Michigan or on the west coast of Michigan, on Lake Michigan, and try to offer kind of an in-state, weekend retreat. And those were amazing, and they kind of were an extension of like the half-day program. And that was another way that I was able to service more people, to scale up and really elevate my income, but also reduce my one-on-one caseload and satiate my own need to have something creative, something fun, like a great outlet for my soul. So it felt like a yes to offer these things. Then the next step from those retreats was really building something bigger by offering international retreats in Costa Rica. And those grew to be week-long retreats, and they were really well received, and we sold out on those every year until the pandemic hit, and then we had to put a pause on the retreat work. But then I started this Thriving Therapist Facebook community because I had a lot of therapists asking me, how are you doing this? Like, how did you build a very successful practice, and how do you do all these other things too? Like, how did you do speaking at conferences, and how did you do groups, and how did you do workshops, and how do you do retreats? So I started this page because I thought, okay, then maybe we can start to have a small dialogue. Of course, I didn't know it was going to grow so large so fast, but it's been so much fun to see this page explode. And we've had all of this great conversation in this space, in this community, about different ways that we can thrive as therapists. And so that kind of grew into, what does this community need and want from me? And how can I then serve in that way? And so as I was listening to the posts and the comments and the questions that I asked and the things that you guys were answering, I recognized that you were asking me for a course, you were asking me for workshops, and you were asking for more coaching and consultation. So I started to formulate kind of more of a plan of, how can I do this? How could I show up and serve in this way? So that was just, again, a natural way for me to fall into what was the right next step. I still have a very large caseload. I have not managed to let go of very many slots per week. I try to take one day off a week now, and I see about 6 or 7 people Tuesday through Friday. And I try to take Mondays off so that I can devote more time to some of my other interests, like the workshops, retreats, and online courses, and this community, and the coaching and consulting, and everything else that I enjoy doing. So I kind of wanted to give you guys just a little bit of my story, and I'd love to hear also how you have done it, because we have this really vast, awesome community with so much wisdom and knowledge to share on all different kinds of ways to build additional income streams. And these are just kind of 4 little examples that I wanted to share with you today on how I did it with group therapy, with workshops, with retreats, and now with online courses and coaching, and also the membership, which is coming up. So if you guys haven't seen that, you're welcome to take a look at it. February 1st, we're going to be launching the Elevate monthly membership for this community. It's only for therapists who are really ready to elevate their work and income. And each month we're going to be picking kind of a different theme The first month in February, we're going to be talking all about making and managing our money. And I have some guest expert speakers coming in. I cannot wait for that. I also will be offering office hours every month in a private Facebook group for members only. So if you guys have specific questions for me, or if you have any Q&A you want me to answer, I'm happy to hop in there every month and provide some office hours and extra coaching and support just for members. And then I also have a downloadable worksheet or a checklist that I'm going to send you every month based on our theme. And that is going to be a wonderful way to help you stay accountable. So I know that when I've tried to start, projects, or I have this big idea of like, maybe someday I'll do this, like, for example, my husband is a chef, and years ago, we lived in Munich. In 1999 and 2000, we lived in Munich, Germany together. And right after we got married. And we thought, oh my God, one day, wouldn't it be amazing to rent a villa in Italy and host a retreat, like a food and wine retreat there in Tuscany, and you could do the cooking. I told my husband, and I'm like, and I'll do all the organization of like the people and the tours and all that stuff, because I love like managing groups and people. Oh, Rachel, I am so excited too. I cannot wait for the membership. I'm so happy that you're part of it. And so I thought, okay, we're going to do this someday. But honestly, you guys, that took us like 10 years to get up the courage and to have the platform, quite honestly, in order to offer something like that to a group and have it sell out and be successful. And we ran 2 of these Italian villa food and wine tours in Tuscany together, which was really fun. That was a blast. We bring chefs with us in addition to my husband, and the 3 chefs cook for 26 guests, and we have a huge like castle in the Tuscan hills, and we do really fun things with that. We had 2 of them actually planned for 2020, and we had to tear both of them down because of COVID, so we're on hold with that right now. But what I was trying to say is, it takes a long time for us to go from thinking about doing something to doing it. And sometimes I think what helps the most is to have a community of support behind you, with people who say, I'm excited about doing this too, and you can do it, I can do it, and we can be accountable to each other as we like set our goals out loud and really claim and set our intentions. And then also having some clear guidance and having kind of a coach or someone to kind of push you through it. I don't know if any of you have tried to write a book, for example. I know we have some authors in our group who have written books in our field. I have always wanted to write a book, but I feel like I need a book coach. I honestly feel like I need like a midwife to like help me birth my book, because it's so hard to like get these things done when you don't have, you just don't have like someone behind you kind of saying, okay, now did you get this done, and how did you do with this? So I just feel like these dreams that we have can kind of like linger out here, like, oh, someday I would love to run a retreat, or someday I should make a group and do group therapy, or maybe one day I'll make an online course. But it's like one day turns into like forever, right? We're kind of waiting for either, I don't know, time and space and energy to do it. But in my experience with adding things to my life, I never had that. I never had more time to add things to it. I just had to like make it happen. I never went from 35 clients a week to a sabbatical, for example, and then being able to just create a retreat and design an online course. No, I had to find the gumption and motivation and courage and coaching and courses myself to help me stay accountable to my goals of executing the plan and like actually seeing it through. So you're welcome to check out the membership Elevate. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. It's all pinned at the top of our page in the announcement section. So check it out. I'm also going to put a link in the comments for this Facebook Live today. But again, I'd love to hear more about how you're building your thriving practice and what you're doing if your caseload is too full. How are you going to pivot and elevate your work and income? All right, I'll talk to you soon. Take good care, you guys. Have a great week.